Hey everybody, welcome to Bohemian Galaxy, a brand new sci-fi RPG podcast. I am your GM, Nelson. I just wanted to pop in here before the start of the first episode to say thank you for downloading. We're really happy with what we're working on here, and I hope you enjoy it. I just wanted to say that these first couple of episodes have some audio issues, but they do get resolved by episode 3. By then we're all recording on separate tracks, mixing them together, editing out all the weird junk. So if you like the jokes and like the story but aren't fond of some of the audio issues in these first couple episodes, just stick with it, and I think you'll really enjoy what we're doing. So without further ado, here is Bohemian Galaxy. So tonight, we're going to be playing a new game using the Savage Worlds rule system. And we're going to be playing a game in a custom homebrew sci-fi setting of my own devising. So why don't we start out with introducing our characters. Drew, do you want to go first?
Yeah, do I do this in character? Is that how this works?
Whatever you want to do, baby.
Yeah, so my name's Drew, and I'm gonna be playing the character of Sam Sullivan, who is a pilot and former security guard / mercenary person.
So in the Savage World system, the way that the characters work is they all have traits and skills like most role-playing games, but these characters also include things called hindrances and edges. Hindrances are basically character flaws that you role-play, but taking a hindrance gives the character bonuses to skills and things like that, basically. And you can also take extra edges, and edges are basically things that your character is extra good at. For example, Drew's character has the edge of ace. Is that right?
Yep.
So you basically with an ace edge, you get a bonus to your piloting skill.
Yeah. Also boating, in case that ever comes up.
So your edges are boating and ace. And...
Wait, no. That's all part of the.
Ace.
Yeah, this ace thing is good. I'm gonna round it out. You know what people do a lot in sci-fi? Drive boats.
And so, what are your character's hindrances?
Let's see. So I have the major hindrance that I have code of honor, which basically means I'm not a cartoon cutout role-playing sociopath.
So you're afflicted with the horrendous character flaw of having an ethical stance.
Yes, that is in this rule book. That is a major character flaw. I get 2 points of extra bonuses for that.
For having to behave ethically.
Yeah, but it suits my purposes fine. And then I have a minor hindrance.
You said you have a phobia of the outdoors.
Yeah, so like on a planet, like in an unenclosed space.
Okay, so that doesn't count for deep space.
Yeah, because then I'm in like a spacesuit. I'm sure I probably have a phobia of being out in space without a spacesuit too. I have a minor wanted hindrance, so I did something in my past that some people in some place far away are still after me for.
Probably something very ethical.
Or maybe I changed. Maybe I'm a changed person. Or maybe it was too ethical.
Yeah. Justin, how about you introduce yourself and your character?
All right. I'm Justin. My character's name is Amadeus Ex Machina.
God damn it.
Well, actually, I'm known as Amadeus Ex Machina, but my close friends know that it's actually pronounced Machina.
Magina.
Wait, do you want us to call you Magina?
I'm calling him Amy, so that's
I don't mind.
like in character. I'm going to refer to him as Amy.
Let's all call each other different things.
Because he's arrogant and vengeful and quirky.
So you said your hindrances are arrogance and vengeance, and so you're like the Phoebe of the group. And what are your edges?
My edges are brawny, which means I got like a nice bronze tone, like a thick mustache. And then MacGyver, which is obvious. I can, do anything as long as I have a paperclip and some chewing gum. And jack of all trades.
Oh my God, we forgot the condom. It's okay. I have a paperclip and some chewing gum.
I have a banana peel.
Just stuff this paperclip up my dick.
Wait, Justin, what you said you're quirky. What is your actual quirk?
Make any mechanical thing I work with have like a melody or like have some musical aspect to it. The story is the most famous incidence of this is me getting kicked out of the military for modifying ammunition to sound like a drinking song, specifically Tequila Wormhole when the guns were fired.
Is that a real song?
Oh yeah, I mean in this universe.
Oh, okay.
This is a song on SoundCloud.
Oh, that song.
Maybe that'll be the theme song to this
Oh
podcast.
no, it's a dude named Tequila Wormhole.
Wow.
Top track is Broke for Free, A Beautiful Life. Tequila Wormhole is terrible.
I don't know what you
Restarted
expected.
if it's
As like a person?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just judging him based off of his music.
Why don't you introduce yourself and your character?
My pathetic character. Barnaby Cox. No, I don't have a voice. Fuck that. Barnaby Cox. He's like a nerd who met the legitimate love of his life, but she rejected him. And he believes that if he goes on an adventure to become a man and to develop himself, that he can win her back. He's basically just a huge nerd. He has a sword. He paid a lot of money to create a replica of a sword from the movie Son of Cthulhu 9. He practices with it every single day, but because I fucked up in creating the character, he can't actually fight with it. So
Which is way better and more hilarious.
Wait, I have a question. Is it
the
Son of Cthulhu as in like the child of Cthulhu?
As in, offspring of Cthulhu 9. He is very smart. He has a lot of spirit, which we'll see where that goes as this character develops. He's good. He has knowledge in computers, so he's kind of and healing and astronavigation, so he can kind of be a backup for the captain. He's charismatic, which I'm going to say is because he's good looking, because I can't role play charisma. Then his hindrances are, his major one is that he's curious to a fault. He is a minor pacifist, as in he won't fight unless he's attacked, which is, partially because he doesn't know how to fight. And then finally, he believes in space fairies. He has a minor delusion in space fairies.
And what are your edges?
He's charismatic.
Oh, that's right. So let's talk a little bit about the way that Savage Worlds works. Basically, this game is different from a D20 system in that you have your stats and then you have your skills that you train in, or that you put points in to do things like fighting or shooting or piloting or persuasion or notice, stealth, stuff like that are all skills. Your traits are your stats. You have agility, strength, vigor, smarts, and spirit, I believe, are all 5, right? And so the way that this game works is when you put points into your stats, that increases the die size that you roll when you do something with that stat. So everyone at level 1, your trait like strength or vitality will be a D4. As you rank it up, it goes to D6, D8, D10, and the highest is a D12. And in this game, the objective essentially, in most cases, the objective is to get a 4 or better on your roll in order to succeed at a task. And different bonuses or negative modifiers can come into play depending on what you're trying to do. There's some other instances like in combat where the target number is different. If you're doing an opposed roll where you're trying to struggle with somebody else to take something away from them, you both do strength rolls and the higher strength wins. But in a lot of cases, essentially what you're trying to do is get a 4 or better. This game is based a lot around the idea of a deck of cards. Player characters and also important NPCs are called wild cards. And wild cards, as opposed to lesser characters, which are called extras, have a special thing where whenever you roll a die to do something like a skill or a trait, you also roll a d6, and this is called your wild. It's like your wild die. And so when you do that, like let's say you have a d4 wild die. Let's say you have a d4 in strength and you're trying to do something strength related. So when you roll your strength, you roll a d4 and the d6 wild die, and you take whichever number is higher. You don't add them together, but you pick which one, you want to use based on whichever one is higher. Also in this game, if you roll max on a die, like you roll a 6 on a d6, that's called an ace. And when you ace a die roll, you get to roll again that particular die and then add it to your total. So like again, in the example, let's say you're struggling with somebody else to try to take their gun away. You both roll strength. So you roll your d4 and your d6. You ace on the d6, so you get to roll it again. So you add the 6 that you originally rolled, plus whatever you roll after the ace, and that's your strength roll. Again, you don't add the d4 to it, you just take whichever one's higher, and if that one aces, you get to roll it again. And you can roll again and again as long as you keep acing. So if you roll a 6, roll again and get another 6, roll again, you add all that together to get your strength roll. And then, so usually you have to hit a 4 to succeed at something, but there's another thing called a raise, which is if you roll at least 4 above the target number. So let's say the roll that you have to do is a 4, and then you roll an 8. That's called a raise. You succeeded plus 4, so that's a raise. A lot of different things in the game. You get bonuses or you get a better outcome if you raise. Some things, if you raise and re-raise, you keep stacking. Other things, if you raise at least once, you get some kind of bonus. For example, in hand-to-hand combat, if you hit somebody with a raise on your roll, you get to add an extra d6 to your damage roll for that hand-to-hand fighting. So there's a lot of different parts of the game where a raise or an ace can really help you out to try to succeed at a task or do something a lot better. Does anyone have any questions about how the game works before we start?
I guess I have a couple questions about the world, but maybe that'll be...
Yeah, we can talk about the world for a minute. So if you guys want to know kind of like what this sci-fi world is about.
Yeah, I guess I mean, right now my questions are mostly focused on our ship, which is what we have, and then maybe like larger implications about the world could come out of that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about that.
So I guess you alluded to before that we have a ship computer. Is that still?
Yeah, I mean, your ship has, it's like a low-level AI, kind of. So it's not like sentient or anything like that, but it is able to, do a lot of calculations and provide advice, kind of, and
it's not like Jarvis.
So on a scale from like Siri to Jarvis, it's more of a Siri.
It has more personality than a Siri. It doesn't have initiative.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't come up with ideas.
And then is there like a remote control for the ship, or is it?
It can do like fairly sophisticated maneuvers if you give it a command, but again, it can't like decide to do something.
Can we give it if-then commands? Like,
yes, but they have to be very clear.
Is the ship like a monkey's paw of sorts, or if I...
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, if you give it a command and it follows that command to the letter, so that could, potentially screw you. So you want to give it like clear commands. But so you guys, we established prior to this that you three have gone in together, thirdsies, on buying an old ship. So we could say a couple things about the ship. The way that I imagine it in my mind is that it's like, it kind of looks like the ship from Star Tours at Disneyland. Like super boxy, kind of like a shuttle, it's like really boxy.
Yeah,
it's kind of a blunt, like a blunt wedge nose, but bigger. Like it's kind of like a small cargo ship.
Like a minivan of space.
Yeah, exactly. But it
has... How big is it? Like, do we all have rooms? Like,
yeah. There's a captain's quarters, which is like a little bit bigger and nicer, but still pretty bare bones. 3 rooms that have 4 bunk beds, but you guys obviously don't fill up, the whole ship because there's only a 3-man crew.
You don't know what I do.
So, maybe you took out some of the bunks that you didn't need to get some more space in your quarters.
We probably just leave the fourth place for like passengers, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, like maybe. Because you guys are, I think we said, you do like scrap, salvage, and like jobs like that. Maybe you do like a transport, like a passenger transport odd job on the side or something like that to make extra cash. The ship has like a basic kind of small galley and a pretty substantial cargo bay. So a couple things. You guys had established that this was sort of an eccentric ship when you bought it.
It has character.
So there's a couple things. It's quite old. It's it's seen better days in the way that it looks. But you notice a couple odd things about the ship. It's got a decent sized cargo bay, but it kind of seems like the cargo bay isn't as big as it should be, or it kind of seems like the ship doesn't have as much interior space as it should based on kind of its external dimensions.
Because we have a smuggling fucking thing?
Yeah, so as you're like getting used to the ship, you kind of start to realize that this thing is riddled with secret cubbies and compartments, and you don't think that you've found all of them yet, but just like storage tanks that are just like false fronts that lead to like secret compartments, the sort of the gantry way, like the Jeffrey tubes, have lead to little hidey holes and stuff like that.
Did we find any dead Jeffreys in the tubes?
No, you found a Steven, but he was a rat.
I think the Jeffreys only die if they go outside of the tubes.
That's right. They live in the tubes. That's why they're the Jeffrey tubes. And then the other thing about this ship is that it's surprisingly fast for what a piece of shit it looks like. In terms of technology, so your ship has like conventional thrusters, but it also has a jump drive. So in this world, you can fold space and jump from system to system, but you don't have like fusion reactor core in your ship. The way that most ships get around is they have like battery packs that power the ship, and then you have these huge solar panels basically made of like a monofilament material that unfold, and so once your batteries get low, you have to unfold your solar sails and basically soak up some juice before you can jump again.
So does that mean if we jump to a place without a star that we're totally fucked?
Typically ships are built so that you have enough juice for like 2 or 3 jumps.
I see.
So if you don't plan, you could definitely get screwed. If you do get screwed, your ship does have emergency cryogenic chambers. So hypothetically, you could put yourself into a deep sleep and then just set the ship.
Like a million years.
I mean, it depends on how far out you are.
Speaking of far out, like, is this universe like well populated? Like, is there blips and shits in every parsec, or is there still like a fear of the void in space?
There's definitely a fear of the void. Although this is around year 2750, the jump drive has been around for about 300 years. So people have they've explored a decent amount of territory in the galaxy, but there's a lot of untapped supply in terms of how many people there are out there, harvesting resources and stuff, because space travel is still pretty dangerous, still pretty expensive in a relative kind of sense. So the expansion of new stations and colonies is, like I said, relatively slow. But there is a pretty decent infrastructure, and established kind of trade relationships and stuff like that between stations.
Are there aliens?
There are 2 alien races that humans are aware of.
Are they bellicose?
So both of the races that humans have encountered are less technologically advanced than humans. One of those races, I haven't named them, but one of them is they're sort of vaguely humanoid. You could think like the Skinnies or something like that, a little bit like the Protoss. The other race that you're aware of, I think I called them Brodorians. These creatures live on.
Do they only say one word?
Brodor? No.
Bro the door.
So these creatures are intelligent, at least human level intelligence, but they sort of look like flying whales. They live on this planet. They spend most of their lives in the air. They look a little bit like orcas with gigantic testicles like hanging off their bodies, but these sacks are basically like buoyancy to keep them afloat in the air, and they don't really have a lot of technology. They spend most of their time singing.
Oh man.
They have one ship that this scientist who first made contact with them gave them, and the ship is called the Excelsior Horizon because he was really stoked about meeting these aliens, and he wanted to.
Do you know which race we met first? Was it them?
Yeah, it was the Brodorians, and it was extremely disappointing because all they care about is music, but their music is not super appealing to humans.
Is it appealing to Amadeus?
Yeah, sure. If you're a connoisseur of sounds, I think that makes sense. And the other thing about Brodorians is that they have a unique ability to transmit sound through an atmosphere in a similar way to how whales can send sound through water at really long distances. So when the Brodorians come around to play a concert, like on Earth, everyone is pissed because these flying whales just float around in the sky playing their shitty music, and you can't get away from it.
How often do the Brodorians be like, you know what, I'm going to hop on over to Earth and play some music that nobody there wants?
Just like every once in a while.
Do they have arms and hands and stuff? Or
no, they do they look like whales. They have these big flaps that they kind of use to direct themselves through the air, and they actually kind of like suck gas in and then expel it out as like a means of getting like propulsion through the air. But no, their song again is sort of analogous to like whale song. You know, they just make these weird sounds, but it travels for like thousands of miles. It's not super loud. It's just this weird thing where the sound can just travel through air at a really long distance. Yeah.
Okay, so do we have like a home base? Like, are we from Earth or somewhere? Or?
It's up to you where you want to be from.
I kind of pictured us as being like itinerant, like a Firefly or like a Star Trek type of deal where the ship is our home, really, but I don't know if that.
Yeah, that works for me. I'm gonna say, wait, Nelson, give me a random like major station that's not Earth, and I'll be from there.
Hermes Station.
Okay, I'm from Hermes Station.
Yeah, Hermes Station is sort of a major like free station. It's like free in the sense that there are about 15 different sort of economic interests that own parts of the station, and then they coordinate as like a council to sort of run the station, maintain order, and do trade and stuff like that. Let's see. Oh, and then so recent technological development in the last 50 years is gravity plating, which can provide artificial gravity on ships and stations and stuff like that. So a lot of older ships and stations are still designed with the idea of mainly taking advantage of thrust gravity or spin gravity in the case of a station, that kind of thing. But so a lot of the designs and layouts are built with that in mind, but most places have converted to having gravity plating.
Does our ship have gravity, or do we float?
Yes, your ship does have gravity plating. It was actually built in the first generation of ships to have gravity plating sort of in mind in the design. So your ship isn't primarily designed to use thrust gravity. But if you do lose gravity, or you're underway, there are essentially like crash couches. There's like seats that you can strap into if you lose gravity or if you're in transition or something like that. So shall we begin the game?
Hey, I'm back. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a little preview of the show to come. Our first full episode will be out on February 1st, and I look forward to having you guys back again then. Please subscribe on iTunes and follow us on Twitter at Bohemian Galaxy. Thanks for listening.